What's happening? What's happening, baby? We live, baby. You are now watching J.U.K Sports Show. I am your host, King Ralph, here with my co-host, the homie Kai. Your mic is muted if you didn't know, brother. But we're doing good, living live, getting ready for this Super Bowl week. Pro Bowl just wrapped up. Senior Bowl just wrapped up as well. How you feeling over there, bro?
Feeling good. Trying to unmute my mic. Give me 1 second. Why is it not muting? There we go. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, cool. Yeah, I was trying to unmute my mic. I'm like, why is it not unmuting? But I'm feeling great. Um, this is my favorite. This is my favorite time of year, honestly, Ralph. Um, with the Super Bowl, because we have a whole lot of different you know, festivities going on. We just came off the
Yeah.
Pro Bowl,
So much
the
time for
whole nine,
activities.
man. Yeah, so I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that. How about you, man?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good, man. This I actually I this it's the food, the trash talk, the gambling, the bets.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for this weekend. Still got to figure out where I'm going, but I'm pretty sure gonna wind up at the homie Nate's house, who
Okay.
is an
Okay.
Eagles fan.
Ooh.
So
Ooh.
we will
Okay.
see. We will see on that one. But before we get jumping, make sure you follow us on all of our socials. Go on Instagram. Type on that logo, that camera logo. Go to the IG. Type in at the.house of hoops because trade deadline is ramping up.
Yeah.
Kyrie got traded. We will be talking about that. So he will be the man, the myth, the legend, the homie Kai will be breaking down with unbiased narratives, basketball analysis going into the trade deadline, and and in 2 weeks after, I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, we got the
Yeah.
All-Star game. So the season's about to
Mhm.
kick up. It's about to get hot, heavy, and make sure you go to the @the.house of hoops page. Go on Instagram, TikTok, as well as Twitch at KYNGRALPH. Go on Twitter and add an underscore to that. If you want to stay in tune with everything that is this channel and this podcast, go on Instagram at J.U.K. Sports Show. We have changed the YouTube channel name to Juke Media, J.U.K. Media. The Facebook page will be switching as well. You will be seeing a new logo as we are going under the brand Joint Universal Creatives
Mhm.
LLC. Stay in tune. But show coming rip. Let's let it rip.
All
We
right. All
got two
right.
minute drill, man. We got Lamar Jackson, and it's been reported Lamar Jackson is and the Ravens are about 100 million, which is a lot of money,
Yeah.
and guaranteed. But it's specifically the guaranteed money.
Mhm.
So it leads us to ask: does he deserve Deshaun Watson type money?
He deserves Steve Biscotti money, but
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. And I just want to preface this for the sake of time, guys, as always with this drill, that I am a Baltimore Ravens fan, and Lamar Jackson is my favorite football player in the NFL. Please be cognizant of that. However, I am unbiased in this situation, and I have a perspective of get a chance to watch him every single week. Lamar Jackson is everything to this team. Lamar Jackson has no off the field issues, and I'm not trying to, cast any additional aspersions on Deshaun Watson. He has no off the field issues. He's a unanimous MVP, something that a Joe Burrow, a Josh Allen, even Pat Mahomes didn't have, right? And he accounts for over 80% of the Ravens offense while being a 26-year-old player in his prime who has not yet peaked yet, and is elite and has accomplished more than any other than what Deshaun Watson has accomplished thus far in the NFL. So based off of that merit, he is just so deserving of that, and he also has what the most, I believe, the most quarterback wins by the age of 25. He broke Dan Marino's record. He's always good to at least get you 10 plus wins. Obviously, when healthy. Um, but the health concerns, Ralph, are simply because they've been asking him to do too much in an abundance of too much. And I'll end with this quick stat, guys. Uh, Lamar Jackson during his MVP season, right? he actually had a higher passer rating. Repeat, a higher passer rating than both Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Josh Allen. All guys who we deem to be in the MVP race this season, right? Leading candidates and vice versa. And he threw for more rush touchdowns. I mean, for more passing touchdowns than all those quarterbacks, except for Patrick Mahomes, while throwing to Seth Roberts, Willie Snead, and Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is a top three tight end. Now you compare that to what the other players had to work with. And so I think when you factor all those in, and he was leading rusher in the NFL, and he's a leading rusher for his team, he's just too, like we always say, Ralph. He's too much of a he's too valuable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's too much too valuable. So to answer that question, yeah, I would say just based off of those things, yeah, he's definitely deserving of a bigger contract than Deshaun Watson and guaranteed money. So don't budge, Lamar. Get your bread.
I'm gonna say don't budge, Lamar. Get your bread, but at the same time, I do think you got to be realistic, and
Mm-hmm.
I think when certain things happens, when the market gets reset,
Yeah.
it's typically all right. So like when Dak, people was getting paid 25, I'm gonna get 30 something.
Yeah.
So when you go from, and then it's like, all right, cool, we're getting about 80 million guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was Pat Mahomes got this crazy deal, but then it
Five
was,
hundred mil. Yeah.
but how much of that was guaranteed?
Guaranteed. Yeah.
So then when Deshaun gets his, and it's like his full $250 million contract is
Mm-hmm.
guaranteed. All right, now I think at some point shoot for the moon. At least you fall amongst the stars
Yeah. Yeah.
type of thing. But at the same time, with that, you got to be realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I'm saying go ahead, try to get as much as you can,
Will it happen?
the likelihood of you getting, especially with
Two
three,
thirty plus.
his last 2-3 seasons have
Yeah, with the
all
injuries.
ended in injury,
Mm-hmm.
or he's
Yes.
been injured at some point.
Fair.
Regardless of
Fair.
what it is, why it is,
Yeah.
the team being putting too much on him
Mm-hmm.
has a lot to do with it. But at the same time, the truth of the matter is he is getting injured.
Yeah. During postseason, when you need him for postseason play down that
Exactly.
stretch. Yeah. Okay.
And so I do think you do got to be realistic about off this, but at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
Lamar, go get your bread, bro.
Yeah.
And this is like I brought up earlier, bets. It's one of my favorite times. 3 prop bets.
3 prop bets. All
I'm
right.
gonna
So
give
I
you.
got.
Oh, go ahead, bro.
All right, because I was gonna say, you want to set it off, or it's
I
cool if
got
you don't.
one that I think is interesting,
Okay,
and
I'm
one of
okay.
the things that I
What you
always
got? What you
love
got?
is
Yeah.
the cross sport prop bets.
Mm,
And so I
okay.
saw Juju Smith-Schuster's receptions. Will
Yeah.
he have more receptions,
Okay.
or will on that same night Alex Ovechkin have more shots on goal in his game? And if you know anything about Alex Ovechkin, he
Oh,
gonna
I
get them
know, because
shots up.
DC DMV area.
Yeah, he gonna get them. He gonna get them
I'm
shots
like,
on goal.
yeah,
But at the same
yeah,
time, is Juju Smith-Schuster gonna get more
yeah.
receptions?
I actually think if I were to actually speak to the people, I want to speak to the people, speak to the hood, as Jadakiss would say, man. It feels good when you speak to the hood, man. I would actually go with Ovechkin, not just because Ovechkin is the superior player in his respective sport, but guys, this is going to be a game where I think predicated on look for guys, and we'll get down later when we break down the game. The what are those guys that when you check down to the running back, right, Ralph?
Right,
Pacheco, look for Pacheco, look for Jarek McKinnon, look for those guys to get involved. I believe because they're going to want to neutralize that pass rush, and that's an area where you could say the Eagles somewhat are susceptible to, right, and the screens and things of that nature. I think that would actually benefit going for the Ovechkin prop bet. So I think that Mahomes. What I'm saying is not saying that Juju won't get touches, but I look for Mahomes to get the ball out quick. And so getting the ball out quick necessarily to me doesn't really mean it's going to be Juju down the field. I think he's going to, Pacheco, McKinnon, because McKinnon's a pass catching back, right? So I
right.
will go with Ovechkin just off my personal opinion of the game. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
can definitely see it. I think that the Eagles' strength is their corners and their defensive backs. So I
Yeah.
think that
And that pass rush is crazy, bro.
that pass rush is crazy, but
Crazy
I think
deep.
the middle of the field is where you can attack the
Mm,
Eagles
True. True.
So I think
True.
Kelsey,
Kelsey.
McKinney,
Yeah.
McKinnon, Pacheco, they're all gonna get people that they're gonna feast in the middle of the field. Where I don't think that Juju has that. You never know. They might actually tailor to where those corners play a little bit more toward Travis. So where
Hmm.
now Juju is not getting a Darius Slay or what was old boy that came from the Saints, and so I
Yeah, I know
think
who you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
Gardner, and so I think that if Juju can get to where he's now getting put on a second or third corner, now at that point he has a better chance to be able to get that what do you say that
Yeah. The receptions.
the receptions and the opportunities to do so.
Okay. And I got two more quick ones. Devontae Smith under 62.5 receiving yards. Definitely a really good explosive receiver, play receiver, but he's a big play receiver. And we saw Jalen Hurts miss some big throws, Ralph, last game, right? Because we still have some questions with with that shoulder. We still don't really know how good that shoulder is going to be, and I'm sure that Jalen Hurts, he's not going to be one to. And I don't want to say excuse, but he'll say I'll play through whatever, because he's a warrior, he's a leader. That's the type of mentality that he's going to come in with, and I applaud and appreciate him with doing that. But we did see him miss some throws. I still think some of that shoulder is because the shoulders a concern down the field, and we have to be cognizant of Steve Spagnuolo scheming against that. This is the Super Bowl, right? They're going to really want to shorten the field on Jalen Hurts. So I think Devontae Smith under 62.5 receiving yards is one. And then my other one is Jerick McKinnon over 21.5 rush yards. We've been hearing about Jerick McKinnon, I feel like, since the beginning of the playoffs and him getting involved. And so I think that they're going to have to, at some point, run the ball if the Kansas City Chiefs want to have a chance at winning the Super Bowl. Not saying they don't have a chance, but I'm just saying that I really believe in that Eagles defense that much, the game, the trenches. So they need to neutralize that pass rush. I think Jerick McKinnon is going to be heavily involved in this game coming up.
I think another one that I thought was interesting
Mhm.
was Jason Kelsey's the amount of snaps he'll be in versus Travis
Ooh,
Kelsey's reception yards.
that's tough. That's a tough one.
Right.
That's a tough one. Right? Woo.
That's but
Yeah.
Senior Bowl, I brought it up before. There's a couple takeaways from the Senior Bowl. I think that one of the things now, it's funny going back, and I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Mhm.
So everything that I know is clips that I've seen while also reading articles. And
Which
I
is
think
good.
typically we get a lot of position players who come out of these drafts, and then quarterbacks that come out of these Senior Bowl games. We got the likes of Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Daniel Jones, were people that were able to flourish in these games to get opportunities where their draft stock went up a little bit. So I think, and what I've seen, the takeaways from it is we saw on both sides where there was 10 possible offensive linemen that could be starters.
Mhm.
So on one side, we had the top rated right tackle, Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, top rated guard out of Florida in Osiris Torrance, top rated center coming out of Minnesota with John Michael Schmitz,
Mm.
the consensus All American in TCU's guard, Steve Avila, and at the left tackle spot, a top 50 prospect coming out of Syracuse with Matthew Bergeron. And I think that this is one of those things where you start to see it's good to see the big man get some light because they're so important to the game. While
Yep.
also you see when you go and you mention you look at Tennessee, what was Tennessee able to do? TCU, how far did they get? Even Syracuse and Florida, how well their seasons went compared to the success that they were able to have this season, where you have a guard who's blocking for someone who, for all intents and purposes, is getting so much hype and looks as far as being an Anthony Richardson. And so, as another segue into my last point, we got Jake Hayner coming out of Fresno State,
Mm.
who shows me, from what I've seen and his grades, he gives me that Brock Purdy type
Okay.
of vibe. Smart, doesn't
Hmm.
make mistakes, knows how to manipulate the defense,
Okay.
but he does not have that strong Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes type arm, which is why he's gonna slide to the mid
Mm,
rounds where you can see the Raiders taking another Fresno State, moving one Fresno State alum out of the helm and moving another one in. So I would think, as a Raider fan, and my sources have told me that the Raiders, this is someone the Raiders would possibly take too.
okay. Well, me and you are in Vegas, right? And I'm gonna talk about someone from Houston. Shout out to Drizzy Drake, Houston, Atlanta, Vegas. So far gone, man. That's one of my favorite mixtapes. But I had to plug that H Town in his house because I'm going with wide receiver Nathaniel Dell out of the University of Houston. Ralph. Um, I feel like every single draft, and you can probably agree with this. There's always that small, short speed guy. Everyone's looking for that speed guy. Is he a gadget guy? Is he this? Is he Hollywood Brown? Is he Tavon Austin? Vice versa. There's another one that I'm missing, and you probably know who I'm talking about too. Who I think plays for Florida State. Old boy from Florida State. He's not. I don't believe he's a singer though, but there's always little speed guys. So this guy
Right.
though, he's small, Ralph. Like he's 5'8", 163 pounds. Nathaniel Dell. However, 17 touchdowns, seven contested catches, right? What he showcased at the Senior Bowl was an ability, a clean ability to flip his hips, stopping on a dime. I want to let people know that the ability to stop on a dime. Shout out to Keith Williams, wide receiver coach for Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and other guys. And Tyreek Hill does this amazingly. Whenever you watch him do his stop and then go, is just as important as getting out of your breaks as starting, getting off the line. So Nathaniel Dell exuded a great ability to stop on the dime, get out his breaks, flip his hips, and this is going to be a draft, Ralph, where I believe a lot of people are going to be looking at athletes. Dell, you mentioned him earlier in your piece, Anthony Richardson, right? At the quarterback position, when we look at freak athletes and different things of that nature. So I think Nathaniel Dell, he actually is going to be a second round prospect because people are going to have issues with his frame and his size and et cetera. Being 163 pounds, like, bro, you know what I'm saying, at the NFL
Right,
level.
right.
However, one thing that you can't knock him for is his crisp route running, his stop and go ability, and he has hands. So that's one guy. And then I also like your boy, which from Ohio State, I believe, Dewan Jones.
Yeah.
He's
He was somebody that
Ralph,
didn't play in the Senior Bowl, but he's nice.
right. He's nice. He's someone who didn't play, but he's someone who I'm looking at who I'm like, yo, at 6'8", 375 pounds, 7'5" wingspan, bro. Like what?
Yeah.
What?
The
Yo,
measurables. The measurables are crazy.
right. Look, hey, Leatherwood, bye bye, Dewan Jones, put him on the Raiders. Just plug something. Plug the middle, man. Flexible. But one guy who I also did like was I like Tyreek Stevenson, um, cornerback, physical, 6 feet, 215, great anticipation. At times he did get beat a couple times off the line, but he's good in press coverage. I do like him in press man, which is important. And I was kind of seeing to see if he was too grabby. Wasn't too grabby. So those are the guys I like. But I really like Nathaniel Dell. He's someone that I'm going to be looking at as maybe a sleeper.
And as a person, as I do my research,
Mhm.
when I look up the name, he comes up as somebody that was on Last Chance U.
Really?
So it's interesting that his nickname is Tank,
Oh,
which is funny. Which funny with him being so small.
yeah. I
Well,
was thinking
switching over
short
to the
for some
NBA,
reason.
man, we got to do it real quick. We got the fast break. We got our man Kyrie
Yes, yes, yes.
coming up, being traded.
The Colts of
So
San
it leads us
Francisco.
as we put the highlights on some of his highlights on the screen.
Mhm.
Is he a good fit in Dallas?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think he is. I think he's a solid fit. He's a solid fit. Anytime you get a an All NBA of All Star starting caliber point guard, an efficient player, 50, 40, 90 type guy who can create his own shot, the ability to create his own shot, create his own offense, Ralph. That is something that is always important in basketball, just as almost as important as uh, creating, being being able to create for others. Which Kyrie actually is underrated at being able to create for others, but he's important because
True.
for me, I think it's the fact that we Luca needs help. Me and you, we talked about this. Everyone's talked about. He needs help. He needs someone else who can put the ball on the ground and create, because he was surrounded by a plethora of shooters like Adoree Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleba, all these different players, even a Porzingis. But you didn't have anyone who could effectively and efficiently score from all three levels. You know, so I can give it to you at the three. I can give it to you in the mid range, midi pull up, and also they needed someone who um, is going to be reliable in the playoffs after they lost Jalen Brunson. We
Right.
cannot. Jalen Brunson played so well, he got a max contract.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I'm saying? But in all honesty, I do have some cause to pause. One is the defensive liabilities on the defense. Now they need someone in the front court, and they don't have the point of attack defenders. Don't get me wrong, Kyrie Irving, he's an underrated defender when he's engaged. But all I'm going to do, if I'm PG, if I'm Kawhi, if I'm Brandon Ingram, Young Bi, if I'm some of these other guys, right, I'm going to be um, getting them in ball screens and hunting Kyrie Irving. I've seen LeBron do it. I've seen so many people hunt him, right? So they're going to hunt Kyrie. They're going to hunt Luca,
And quiet as kept, you can hunt
right?
Luka Doncic too, but
Oh,
there's no
you can
more
hunt
hiding
Luca.
Luka now.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say quiet is kept, but I know what you're saying. Like people hunt Luca. That's how you that's how you stop Luca. Get him
Right.
fatigued, cook him. We saw Kawhi do it. So I think from a defensive standpoint, they didn't improve defensively. I would like to see them get another big. They did keep Christian Wood though, so that's going to be
Right.
very interesting. And then people are going to say, okay, who closes the game? Is Luca going to close or is Kyrie going to close? Because we've seen Luca close, but I also saw what Kyrie was able to do with one of the most ball dominant, yes, people, one of the most ball dominant players in NBA history, LeBron James, and they
Right.
made it work.
Right.
So I think because the West is wide open, I'll end it with this. Because the West is wide open, the the Warriors aren't doing anything right now. Steph's hurt. The Clippers, they're not really consistent for me. The Pelicans, I think they're going to start hitting their stride. And the Denver Nuggets, we still got to see them. So I think that having gone to the Western Conference Finals, Ralph, adding a guy like a Kyrie Irving, I think that it doesn't really hurt them. I think it can only help them. So let's see. What say you, man? I'm curious what you say.
Like you
You know?
said, like when you bringing up LeBron, I think that he's already showed that he can play with someone who was so ball dominant. So I think the one thing with LeBron
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to certain superstars playing along with a LeBron or a Luca, when you're so ball dominant,
Yeah.
you got to be able to create your own shot, or you just don't have a conscience when it comes to that catch and shoot.
Mm.
And so I think that those types of players, when you got someone who necessarily is like more of a rhythm guy, that's where it can kind of get a little bit of things can get a little bit murky. But with
Yeah.
Kyrie, it's like he can get a shot off in two dribbles. So it really doesn't matter how much time I have. It's just like, I give me the rock in a position where I can succeed. And so I think
Mhm.
it's going to take some time. There's going to be some games where it's not going to work. But I think in the long run, when you get to the playoffs, there's a reason why people feel like when the Lakers get if the Lakers can get to the playoffs, regardless of the dysfunction, when you have LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Russ, at some point, those superstars are going to raise their level of play to where you can't game plan once things break down. LeBron is still LeBron, Anthony Davis is still Anthony Davis, and Russ is still Russ. And so I think when it comes down to like Dallas, at the end of the day, you still got it. Luca and Kyrie can both go
But
off
yeah, yeah.
with 30, 40 points a game.
There we go. Okay. So yeah, we kind of blacked out, but I was kind of picking up where you left off. Continue. Yeah.
And so I
Mhm.
think that it's one of those things where you they can play together. It's just I think with
Mhm.
losing Finney Smith, Dinwiddie, you lose some of that defense that is
Yeah.
going to be so much more important when you get to the playoffs.
Right.
Next up, KD. What does this mean for Easy Money Sniper, Durantula,
Mm.
Slim Reaper? Where
You
does he
know,
go from here?
if I'm Kevin Durant, look, man, you signed what he did. He signed a 5 year or 4 year deal with 3 years. I know he has 3 years left though. I'm not quite sure if it
Yeah,
was a 5 year deal he sold,
I don't
but he has.
remember how many.
Yeah, I know he has. Yeah, because I'm saying I don't know how many years he signed. I just know he has 3 years left on his contract, and so it's like, look, man, we saw what happened in the off season, and me and you even agree. We're like, yo, like, bro, like, actually, just stay, man. It's like just because I'm like, this roster is nice, but this, and this has to happen. And I liked them in the finals. My only qualm was I really felt, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful manner. At some point, it came to my realization I was like Ben Simmons, like the weak link, man, in the playoffs. Like Boston had everything because I talked about it. But I think KD, 3 years left on the contract. I just don't think it's going to be as easy route for him to get traded. I think now he kind of has to look at it as unless he really wants to leave Brooklyn. So if he really wants to leave Brooklyn, okay, but he's gonna have to find a way to thug it out and somehow convert some of the picks that they got into players. They got what a 2027 draft pick. I know you had that on the screen, I believe. 2029 picks. None of them have protections though. It's kind of murky. You got a Spencer Dinwiddie, but we saw them clash. Dorian Finney-Smith, like they need pieces. I did see a report where I think by Brian Windhorst, who said, Ralph, that I think the Brooklyn Nets are still going to try to contend because they were contending before the Kyrie Irving trade. So now it's trying to get some guys back that can score. You have a Cam Thomas, obviously. Shout out to Cam Thomas. But I feel like he's kind of stuck there, you know? And then people say, well, go back to Golden State. Well, Steph Curry's hurt. Like, I don't know. I'm literally at this point, Ralph. I have no idea. I'm gonna be honest. The worst lie I can do is lie to myself. I really have no idea what KD's going to do. Um, he has 3 years on his deal. I just know that me personally, I personally would not want to play for the Brooklyn Nets organization. That's just me personally. But from a basketball standpoint, man, it's the Bucks, it's the 76ers, it's the Celtics. Not necessarily in that order, but those are like the three teams now for me. So KD, if the Nets can slide within the top five without Kyrie Irving, he might just have to play it out this season, and then we'll see what happens in the off season. That's
I,
just me.
for me, honestly, man, I think the reason why the Nets felt comfortable pulling this trigger
Mm-hmm.
is is the fact that how well they're playing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
They
really,
were
truly
playing
think
good.
about it. Like, I understand what the player that Kyrie Irving is, and there's no way you get better with by losing someone of that ilk. But at the same
Mm.
time, if you think about the things as a team,
Yeah.
so you take Kyrie out,
Mm-hmm.
and you get Spencer Dinwiddie. Now he's had some issues when it comes to health himself,
Mm-hmm.
but now you're getting a 6'6" point guard that can
Mm-hmm.
slide from one all the way to three.
Mm-hmm.
So now you get him. Cam Thomas has scored 40 points a game since Kyrie's been traded.
Yep, I like him.
And we have to all talk. Me and you have definitely talked about Cam and expecting him to take that leap. Now
Yep.
getting rid of a Kyrie Irving who is so ball dominant has made him get to a point where he could flourish. So
Mm-hmm.
now
That's
at
what it
this
took.
point, I think that they get better as a defensive unit by
Mm.
losing a Kyrie. You add in a Finney Smith who plays the three in a small ball four. You
He can play
have
defense. Yeah.
you get my man Spence, and we get him back. But I think that there's an opportunity here because Spence ain't no slouch either.
Mm-hmm.
He's good for about 15 to 18 points a game. He's going to play tough defense. You got Nick Claxton, who might be most improved player, defensive player of the year candidate. As long as Ben can stay locked in on the defensive end, when you get KD back and you pair him with a TJ Warren that can go for 20, you pair
Mm-hmm.
him with Spence who can go for 20. You got
Mm-hmm.
Cam who showed he could go for 40. You got KD who could easily go for 40. So I think that, and Watanabe who's been shooting the leather off the rock all season. And so I think that when this team, and then I haven't even mentioned Seth Curry, Joe Harris. You mentioned Finney
Mm-hmm.
Smith as far as a shooter
Mm-hmm.
himself. I think that the team itself is still built where they can win. Now, do they have the superstar power
They have
to
KD.
to withhold to fight off a 76ers, to fight off the Celtics, to fight off the Bucks? We'll see at the
Mm,
end of the day. But at the end of the day, it's really going to boil down to, can Jacques Vaughn get KD to buy in to what the
mm,
team has right now? And I think, honestly, if you look at it from a standpoint of just hoopers, you got shooters,
yeah.
you got versatility, you got toughness, and you got defensive versatility.
Hmm.
And so I think that it might boil down to, can they get a backup big, and also, Ben, you got to do something now. I've seen spurts where you're aggressive, but I need you to be more aggressive now, because it's going to be
Yeah.
much more necessary than it was before. We don't have that leeway where
Yep.
we can throw. At the end of the day, we don't really need you to score like that, because these two can go off for 40 every night.
Yep.
And so I think when you don't have that leeway, you don't have that wiggle room. So I'm gonna need you to ball out. And for the sake of time, moving on to the next one, man. Last week we said Aces going to winning the finals, but Brianna Stewart, Courtney Vandersloot ended up going over
Not
to the
so fast.
New York Liberty, and then
Yeah.
we got Sabrina Ionescu, who's already over there, one of
Hmm.
Kobe's favorite college players to watch when,
Yep. A disciple.
and one of his disciples. And so now
Yes.
you
Yeah.
partner them with, and you throw them up against a Chelsea Gray, a Candace Parker, as well as an Asia Wilson. And that team has a lot of depth. We brought back Kia Stokes,
Hmm.
excuse me, Kelsey Plum,
Hmm.
to throw in some names. Jackie Young, another person on the Aces team. I'm not that familiar with the Liberty yet, but I will be. Are you bold enough to say we're headed to our Liberty Aces WNBA finals?
I just want to say, Alexa, drop that Empire State of Mind track, Alicia Keys, please. New York, concrete jungle where dreams are made of. There's nothing you can't do, and that means beating the Aces in the WNBA finals. No, well, hey, look, man, I think we are. I was talking to some people who are a little more plugged into me. Shout out to my homegirl CB, into the WNBA. Just a little more plugged in, and she's like, yeah, she's like, no contest. She's like, it's going to be the Aces, and it's going to be the um the New York Liberty. I like the point guard play, especially I love the point guard play that they have with the New York Liberty, and it's going to be interesting to see Kelsey Plum, and going to be interesting to see Sabrina. I always say her last name. I want to pronounce it right. I think it's Inesco, or is it Ionesco? Is it Inesco? But yeah, Sabrina
I always say
from
Ionesco, but I could be wrong.
Ionesco. Okay, okay.
Ionescu,
Yeah, the triple double machine, man.
right?
So she's always dishing out the rock, and she can put up the points. Adding someone like a Brianna Stewart, and Brianna Stewart, she's amazing. So that Asia Wilson, that's cold. But that stat just eats at me, Ralph, with the whole like no one ever winning a back to back. But also the devil's advocate or the pushback is history's always bound to be made and records are bound to be broken. But I in terms of just like the collision course, I think they're going to be on a collision course, barring health. I think everyone's going to be fine. And with the Aces, at least we know what they look like. We've seen them actually play games, so we already know them. And we also have the advantage of depth. Um, but I do believe that it's going to be a collision course. It's going to be interesting, I think, for me to see how these teams play when they meet in the regular season, on the schedule, and then obviously in the playoffs once that happens, if they can get to the WNBA finals. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it. With them being the favorites because they're going to be the Vegas favorites. So yeah, sure, why not?
And I agree with you, man. I ain't gonna spend too much time on it. I think that barring health, we're
Mhm.
set for a collision course. I don't really see a team that can be able to throw. I know it takes more than three players, but
Yeah.
when you have the two teams that were in the finals on the East got weaker, and one of them went to the West to join the team that we're talking about. So those two teams are not going to be there no more.
Yeah.
Then the Liberty were already in the playoffs, and then you add two veterans while also maybe the best basketball player in the WNBA.
Hmm.
and Breonna Stewart. So then you get, while like I mentioned, you add some more veteran leadership, you add more depth, bringing back young players while also getting a Candace Parker
Yep.
from the Chicago Sky. I think we're set for a collision course. Next up, we
If we
brought
get
him up earlier, man. We
yeah.
got best destinations for a couple of quarterbacks that possibly could be on the move. Some
Mhm.
definitely are on the move. Others is just speculation. We talked about Lamar Jackson. We've been talking about for some time. I'm gonna let you take this one because
Okay.
this is your boy, and you've given me, if he happens to leave Baltimore, a spot that makes so much more sense.
Okay, I'm actually gonna have to swing it back to you because I need to plug my charger in apparently. So you want to start with Derek Carr, and then I'll get back to you on Lamar.
All right, we're gonna get back to
Okay.
Lamar. I'm gonna
All right.
start with Derek.
Okay.
I hope I spelled his name right because I always mess it up. Because I don't know why there's so many different ways to spell Derek Carr or Derek, but Derek Carr. I think for me, man, when you start to think about it, there's a couple of different places that are just missing that piece. I think the one that makes the most sense in a, especially when you start to think about the talent that Derek Carr is, I think the one that makes the most sense is
Mhm.
either the Saints when you have someone like a Michael Thomas, a Jarvis Landry. You if they bring back Kamara and then Chris Olave with the speed that he has, now you're able to partner that with Derek Carr, who showed he can win big games, come back accurate, good locker room guy. I think when you put him in a position like that, where they have a defense that plays very well and at a high level, while also being in a weaker division, I think immediately you put yourself in a position of where you can win that division. While also, I think if you think about the Washington Commanders, putting him where you got Scary Terry, Brian Robinson, good young running back, Gibson,
Mm.
another depth at running back where you got a two headed monster. Then you got Logan Thomas at tight end, and just a plethora of weapons to where he could step in day one, and they're just being missing that missing piece, which is just that quarterback. And I've been trying to tell people this. It really hurts my feelings because it's one of those things that I hate that the quarterback gets so much credit when they lose or win. And I think that like when you start to think about like people always wonder like, oh, how don't you think that Tom Brady is the GOAT? And it's like the one time Tom Brady has played with a defense that was not in the top 15
Mhm.
was this year, and look how bad they looked. He has
Mhm.
never played with a defense that was as bad as the defense that he played this year. So it's not like he was scoring all of these points and then his defense was just giving up points and he's happened to figure out a way to come back and win. No, it's his defenses were keeping them at 17, 18 points a game, and then he happened to be able to
Mm.
score that last touchdown. Now, I'm not going to say take anything away from him because you still got to be clutch. But
Yeah.
when you got Derek Carr who's scoring 28, 31 points, and then your defense gives up 35, what really is a person supposed to do at the end of the day? So you want to put him in a position to where he has weapons to get the ball to because he's a definitely inadequate, very good quarterback, top 10 quarterback in my personal opinion, top 8 in my personal opinion.
Okay.
But also you want to give him in a position where the defense gives him some wiggle room, which he has not had because the Raiders are consistently, since he's been in the league for 9 years, have been in 32nd in total defense.
Yeah, that's scary, man. That's scary. And isn't Jack Del Rio defensive coordinator over in for the Washington Commanders, so he has a rapport with Derek Carr as
Possibly.
well?
I'm
Yeah.
not 100% sure. I do believe so though.
Okay. Yeah. So that could I don't know. I mean, that's the defensive side of the ball, but I think he likes Derek Carr, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So yeah. Okay. So
I'm gonna let you go
on
crazy with
to
Lamar, bro.
yeah, with Lamar, I'm go crazy, crazy eights, right? Number eight. But yeah, Lamar Jackson. I've been on the record of saying this before, and obviously, I'm sure people have seen the NFL execs agree on this. The Atlanta Falcons. I think that is the team that makes sense, which also makes money, right? See, like that bars. But uh, first and foremost, we got to look at Lamar Jackson's situation, Ralph. As why is there a friction or whatever, or the negotiation, that deal not being done, is because of money, right? He wants the money. So Lamar Jackson needs to go to a team that was going to be willing to pay him that money. And so we look at the Atlanta Falcons. What did the Atlanta Falcons just do? They were trying to aggressively pursue Deshaun Watson, despite the multiple, multiple sexual assault cases against him, and the fact that he hadn't played in 2 seasons, right? So you're going after a quarterback who hadn't played for 2 full seasons, and you're like, okay, we really willing to get him, and you're willing to give up everything for him, and you fell short to the Cleveland Browns. So that tells me that they don't believe in their quarterback situation that they currently have. And they had the second most cap space in the NFL, behind only the Chicago Bears. I believe the Atlanta Falcons are projected to have about 85 million in cap, which is a huge number. They moved off Matt Ryan. They moved off Julio Jones. So what does this mean for Lamar? Lamar Jackson go in with Arthur Blank as the owner, and Wanda being the getting the bread. So first you get the contract. Secondly, we look at from the Ravens' perspective of, if they're going to trade Lamar Jackson, tag and trade him, right? They would try to move him to an NFC division, I mean NFC conference out of the AFC. And we look at the NFC South, and the current quarterbacks, Ralph, are Kyle Trask, what is it, Jameis Winston, Desmond Ritter. Like, are these names like really popping off? No. You have the quarterback, you can easily win that division. Lamar Jackson no longer has to compete with a Joe Burrow, with a Josh Allen, with a Patrick Mahomes, with a Trevor Lawrence on a really good Jags team. And we see the Dolphins, and we see the Miami and the Jets on the rise as well. Not saying that he's not a competitor, but the path to prosperity is far easier in that division and in that conference. And then from a schematic standpoint, Arthur Smith's offense fits Lamar Jackson very well. I believe that the Atlanta Falcons are like number one in rush attempts this year. They were top 10 in rush touchdowns. I believe they were like third in rushing yards. And you have Drake London, that outside weapon that I know you've always talked about, and I've always talked about. 6'5", like 210, really good hands. Um, Broke Kyle Pitts rookie reception record. Kyle Pitts, that tight end who had 1,000 yards with Matt Ryan, but then dipped with Mariota, and then obviously I believe he got hurt. So he'll see a resurgence, and then you have Tyler Algier. I just think that from a roster standpoint, from a financial standpoint, and then finally from a business venture, Atlanta is called Black Hollywood, and Lamar Jackson wants to be a billionaire. He has a soul food restaurant in Florida. He can open that up um in what you call it, in Atlanta. So I think that Lamar Jackson, he'll feel comfortable from all three phases. And they have the draft picks. They have the eighth pick in the first round. They have a quarterback. They could trade maybe a Grady Jarrett pass rusher, or what's it, AJ Terrell, I think is his name. Their their cornerback, to the Baltimore Ravens, who have a affinity for defensive minded players. So Grady Jarrett replaces Calais Campbell. Terrell replaces Marcus Peters potentially. So I just think that it's almost too perfect, Ralph. So we'll see what happens. But that's where I'm at. Lamar Jackson in Atlanta, if they do not repeat, if they do not come to terms to a deal.
All right, next up we got Aaron,
I'll
who
let you
I
get down on him.
believe makes the most sense
Mm-hmm.
with with the Raiders. Obviously, Devontae
Oh, the
Adams.
A Rod. Okay.
I think he's someone that is definitely going to that would challenge Josh McDaniels. From the things that I've heard, if you
Mm-hmm.
go and you look at when the Raiders beat the Seahawks on that final
Mm-hmm.
play there where Josh Jacobs scores like a 70-yard touchdown, Josh McDaniels is upset while everyone else is celebrating. And it's the report is he didn't like Derek Carr going off script, which is why Derek Carr got so frustrated.
Oh wow.
And so I think when you have someone like an Aaron Rodgers, he's not going for that. I'm not. If I see something that I don't like, I'm gonna come out of this play. And it had started to get to the point where Derek Carr was not allowed to make an audible at the line. And so
Mm.
I think that when you start to think about those things, you hear those reports, and like certain things start to make sense. How did someone who was such an all-star or Pro Bowl top 10 quarterback looks so inadequate at certain times under
Mm-hmm.
this coach. And so I think that Aaron Rodgers is one of the players that's quarterbacks that's going to come in day one. First off, we've seen him throw lesser people under the bus.
Correct.
He gonna come in and be like, nah, you see this play calling? It ain't on me. And so I think that Aaron Rodgers makes sense with the Raiders. I think another team that he makes sense with, although I kind of want to put Trey Lance on the Jets because they do need someone that's young.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I feel like Aaron Rodgers makes the most sense
Okay.
with the wide receiver talent, the running back talent, and a strong defense. I think he could step in while also the Colts make a lot of sense for Aaron Rodgers. I think that Aaron Rodgers could be that missing piece for the Colts. He gets to play indoors. You have a Michael Pittman. You got a Paris Campbell,
Mm.
Jonathan Taylor. And I think that while also that defense plays very well. So I think that for me, Aaron Rodgers fits the Colts and the Raiders the most.
Okay. And I think the last one was what? Real quick, Trey Lance. I think.
Trey Lance.
All right, so stay where you're at, man. You you just went to the NFC Championship game, even though you never played a snap in it. NFC Championship game. You have Debo Samuel. You have who's the other guy? You know, Debo Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. You traded for Christian McCaffrey. They
Ayuk.
invested heavily. Ayuk, yeah, and they invested heavily in you and by trading. I think they traded for. Didn't they trade for Trey Lance
Yeah.
in the draft? Yeah.
Yes, they did.
So I believe they still believe in him. I'm not saying that Brock Purdy didn't do what he's supposed to do, but I think believe in him. Baltimore is another destination for him, I believe. But the problem is Baltimore still doesn't have an OC, and Baltimore still doesn't have any wide receivers. Sans Rashad Bateman, who's constantly injured. So why would you leave a good thing? I would say, hey, try to prove yourself and roll from there, man. So that's just me. That's me though. I don't
Next up, we're gonna do one fair or foul because we've been trying to get this topic in here
know. Okay.
for the longest time. But Purdue
Purdue.
loses to Indiana,
Mm-hmm.
so but they remain at that top spot. Is this fair or is it foul?
If you're an analytics guy, it's fair. Let me stop there. Hey guys, I have nothing against analytics. I really don't. Actually, I think they're very, very intriguing. I think analytics are very intriguing. It's just supposed to be used in conjunction with. But I'm gonna go. It's crazy. I can't believe I'm saying this. It's still early. I really want to. I can't wait to the actual we get the conference tournaments, bro.
Right.
But they have, if I'm not mistaken, because I had it in my notes, they had like a top five strength of schedule. Purdue.
Yes.
So off the strength, I think off the strength, I understand it. I understand it off the strength of schedule. I'm not really going necessarily for like them being top five in all the statistical categories, which is amazing. But I think just off the strength of the schedule and the talent there and what they were able to do up leading up to that game, I'm gonna give it to Purdue. But I'm keeping a watchful eye on them. I actually really wanted to talk about this topic because it was kind of shocking. I did not expect them to wind up losing in Indiana, but they did.
Nah.
And it's college sports, so I'm actually say it's fair.
I think it's fair as well, man. Like you said, the strength of schedule, how close everybody is one of those
I know how much you
things
love that tweet.
where it's like it's they're still when you go and you look at everybody's win loss records, they still have two losses, and Houston is the only team that has two losses. Every other team has three or more losses. So it's like, all right, cool. Then you go and you start looking at other things, the amount of points that they put up, the how well the votes themselves, while also looking at the teams. You got Bama, Arizona, Texas, Tennessee, UCLA, all within that same. But what is that strength of schedule looking like? And so I think that when you
Mhm.
start to think about that, now is Purdue the sexy pick to win the March Madness and win it all in the end? I don't know. We'll see what that looks like when the tournament comes. But
Yeah.
at the same time, I think you got to look at how are they playing on the court. And a 22-2 record, I don't have a problem with you being number one after a loss, because
Yeah.
that
I
one
think that's
loss really puts you in a position to where you're still tied for the least amount of losses.
true. True. So
And so
okay.
I really wanted to talk about Bronny and whether or not he was overrated or not. But for the sake of time, we got to talk about the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. All right.
Dun, 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 dun,
Previews,
dun.
picks, predictions, man. Who do you have?
Yeah. Um, I definitely got the
You-
Eagles winning,
Okay.
as you can tell by the green hue around me.
All
I,
right.
I got my
That's just
LED
me.
lights, put them on the green, baby.
We
Uh,
both got the Eagles.
I definitely got the Eagles. I think it's one of those things that I wouldn't be surprised to see a defensive player win an MVP
Ooh.
because in order for them to win, they're going to have to
Mhm,
attack Pat Mahomes. And
mhm,
hopefully, for their sake, not wishing injury on nobody,
mhm,
but he did have a real bad sprain. So 2 weeks, I just don't see him being 100% healthy within 2 weeks. Now, whether or not he shoots that ankle up to where now that if his ankle's at 75, 80%, where it closes that 20% gap, now your defense is going to be in trouble. Now Jalen Hurts has to go out there and he has to match what that offense is doing.
mhm.
A part of me is like, when you look at that, I'm going to hold off as far as the score,
Okay.
but I'm going to go Eagles, and then I'm going to say A.J. Brown for MVP.
Ooh. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. So I got Eagles. I believe that the games are won in the trenches. This is gonna be crazy because you have good offensive line versus good defensive line. But I'm gonna give you guys something, right? And Dominican Sue, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis. They have another dude, Ralph. I was like, bro, you have like five nose tackles. What? That's just I'm like, that's just the DT nose tackle position, man.
Yeah, they
Hassan
got
Reddick on
Brandon
the
Graham over
edge.
there
I
too.
was, I was about to say Brandon Graham and Hassan Reddick.
Didn't,
They
didn't
got
they get
someone else.
Quinn? Wasn't that
Yeah,
them that got
Robert.
Robert
Yes,
Quinn?
yes, yes. They have Quinn too. I was like, what? I'm like, it's like they're gonna be. It's the Super Bowl. I'm telling you, man. Like the defensive coordinator, they're going to be rotating guys on third downs, on fresh in the fourth quarter, man.
Fresh bodies.
This is going to
Fresh
be the
legs, fresh
toughest.
legs.
Right. This is going to be the toughest defense they've seen since the 49ers defense, which Patrick Mahomes did light up now. So that's why it's interesting. But I believe the Eagles have more depth. They have the back end play with a Darius Slay. We saw what he did to Justin Jefferson, right? You have a Darius Slay there. I like their running game, Ralph. I like Miles Sanders. I think they're going to try to limit the big plays, but AJ Brown can catch all those other things. You have Dallas Goddard underneath. You have the Kelsey brothers, right? You have Jalen Hurts, and I feel like being fueled. Oh, you can't be the MVP. You have a great team around you. Rah rah rah.
Right, right.
So I see that, but then I look at the Chiefs and I look at Chris Jones. We talked about this. Chris Jones had to be an X factor if they're going to beat the Bengals. Not taking anything away from Patrick Mahomes, Jones Mahomes. They both rhyme, but I was highly, I was highly shocked. I was highly shocked because I didn't think you could have eight rookies in the secondary and win. And Chris Jones, Frank Clark, all of them stepped up, right? Uh, so I, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid playing his old team, but there's no bad blood between it. And like my head keeps saying the Eagles going to win. I was on the Eagles. The Eagles are the best team. They built this team, but the voice or the gut feeling keeps telling me that Mahomes going to come away with it. That's the craziest thing. Even though I'm picking the Eagles, and so I think when you're a great player like Mahomes, you start to create that thing in people's minds. So I think if the defense steps up the way they stepped against the Bengals, I think this game is going to be one of the greatest games ever played. But I think it's going to be in the high 20s. But I don't think it's either team's going to break 30 points like I thought. I think it's going to be like one of them them one of them what you call it like 28 20 27 no 28 24 or 20 whatever type games or something like that. I don't even know the score, bro. So yeah, but I'm going with the Eagles, man. They got everything, man. But that defense, I was highly shocked. I was really shocked. I thought the Bengals were going to beat the Chiefs. So,
You're not gonna pick your boy to win the MVP?
oh, I'm picking Jalen Hurts, man.
All
I'm
right,
picking
all
Jalen
right.
Hurts.
Just want to make
Yeah,
sure, man. You the
yeah,
reason why I got these highlights here, bro.
yeah.
Uh, I think that is one of those things, man. I think you read my mind when it comes to the score. I
Yeah.
think that for me, I'm definitely gonna go 21, 28, 24, 28 Eagles.
Yeah. I don't see them getting lit up on defense. I just don't see them getting lit up
Yeah,
on
I just
defense.
don't see it. Yeah, I just don't see them getting lit up like that. But also, it could be one of those things where you can mess around and have like how bad the Chiefs looked against the Bucks. It could turn into that if they're not able to protect
Right.
Mahomes. If Mahomes is
Right.
not able to create space, create opportunities down the field. And I
Right.
think that when you miss someone like a Tyreek Hill, when you keep having injuries to a Kadarius Tony, and I believe that everybody's going to play.
Yeah.
I think Tony is going to play. Shoot, Juju's going to play. You're going to have
Yeah.
Kelsey. You're going to have Pacheco. You're going to have McKinnon. I think that it's going to come down to can they protect Mahomes so he can make plays down the field.
And also look at Jalen Hurts now too. As good as the Eagles line is with Lane Johnson, I believe Creed is it Creed Humphrey or is Creed Humphrey the one that played for the Landon Dickerson? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Leonard Dickerson.
I just remember all the centers came in that draft.
Yeah,
Landon Dickerson, he having the injury. I'm not sure his status though. It's 2 weeks though, right? So Chris Jones, that's huge for guys like Chris Jones and being able to disrupt the RPOs. You need a guy like Chris Jones and I think Clark who can disrupt those RPOs. So if you get
right.
him out the RPOs, that's why I'm with you, Rob. I think a 27-24, kind of similar to where like Brady had to do that last drive versus
Yeah,
Seahawks where he was dinking and dunking. I believe the quarterback who has the ball the last in this game is going to be the one that wins the game. And a quick prop bet. What do you believe is going to be the color of the Gatorade, Ralph? Tell the people, man. That's always a tough one, man. That's tough. Purple, maybe. I like purple.
I'm
I
gonna
like
go
blue.
blue.
Blue, okay. Blue. He likes that blue, man.
I'm
Blue,
gonna
blue
go blue.
Gatorade in the
Purple's
room.
my favorite color because my daughter's always like, "What's your favorite color?"
All right.
Purple.
I
But
got
I'm gonna go blue with the Gatorade.
okay. I'm purple because I feel like the Ravens should have been there if they had Lamar. But anyway.
But hey, we got a late start, so we're gonna get out of here for the sake of time, while also the flow of the show. Make sure we go and, like we mentioned before at the beginning of the show, make sure you go like, subscribe, share, comment on all of the socials. Go on Instagram, type in at j.u.k. sports show, as well as at KYNGRALPH on Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, add an underscore for Twitter. Go on
Mhm.
YouTube, type in at j.u.media. Go on Facebook for now, type in the He Say She Say channel. Go on Instagram for all your NBA analysis, breakdowns. Trade deadline is Thursday.
Yeah.
All Star game is 2 weeks from now, or 2 weekends from now. And so we're out of here. We gotta go.
Peace. Peace and love.
Fly, Eagle, fly.
As Herm Edwards would say, fly.